Chuck, before anything else, how about that game, man? That was fun.
That was a fun one. It's funny. Like, I usually don't, just because of my job and because I have to be up real late writing anyway. I don't like it when games go long. I did not realize this game went long
Oh,
until maybe 5 minutes were left in the game. And I looked down at my phone and realized it was almost 10 p.m. And I thought, wow. I mean, number one, if every long game was this exciting, give me 3 hour games every day. Number two, I didn't notice it. It was just because there was always something going on. There was a storyline, there was a play, there was a hit, there was a fight, there was a scrum, there was a goal. It was just a very entertaining hockey game. And obviously, for the Flyers fans in the building, for the Flyers fans watching at home, it was a game that delivered the result that they all were hoping for, both in terms of the final score and in terms of the player who established himself as the main character of the game, being Trevor Zegras in his revenge game, which after the game he admitted, oh yeah, it was a revenge game.
I mean, obviously.
Revenge games all around.
He was in an open feud with the organization for 2 years. Like, it's very clear. I'm going to get to some of, like, the actual events of the game, Charlie, but reaction to the atmosphere and just the tone and tenor of the game itself from Rick Tocchet, the locker room, whoever, like, that was as close to a playoff game as we've seen since, last year's Ducks game. And there are a couple of guys out there who weren't there last year. What did everyone have to say about the feel at the arena tonight?
Yeah, more than a few players after the game said it felt like a playoff atmosphere, a playoff environment. Cam York was basically like, man, I wish it was like that every night. That would be amazing. Rick Tocchet said that he felt like it was a playoff atmosphere, that the team, stepped up to meet the emotions of the game. So 100%, the crowd was fantastic. There's a difference, I feel like, between this game, the crowd, and the crowd from the game last year. Like last year's game, it was so abundantly clear early that it was going to be a blowout that it just sort of felt like a big party. It was
Yes.
like, oh, this is like us yelling at Cutter for 60 straight minutes. That was the game. That was the vibe in the arena. This game, like, this did feel playoff-ish. This felt like the crowd was engaged in the game. They were paying attention to the individual plays. They were responding to big hits. It wasn't just like, let's find another way to fit in an anti-Cutter chant. It was, we're into this because not only are we winning and we're getting what we want, this is a truly exciting hockey game. So I think it was Christian Dvorak who said after the game that, the crowd could have gotten demoralized, could have gotten quieter after Cutter Gauthier scores the opening goal. He said crowd didn't die down, and then obviously we revved him back up to full force when Trevor Zegras scores that goal. But it wasn't like the Gauthier goal quieted them. It was just like, all right, fine. He finally punched back. All right, what's our guys going to do? And obviously Trevor Zegras did that and then some in terms of putting his stamp on the game.
Right before you joined us, Charlie, we were just talking about this was a physical, borderline violent game, and the Flyers did suffer a couple of casualties. I know Tocchet doesn't typically tell you, like, oh yeah, this guy's out for this long. Again, after a game, how the hell would he know? But any update on Drysdale or Brink? Just like, are they all right?
Yeah, I mean, I asked Trevor actually after the game about that, and he said he didn't know, he hadn't seen them. Tocchet let slip the concussion word, so clearly that's what they're getting checked out for. Not that we didn't already know, but yeah, that's what they're getting looked at. Tocchet would not give updates, said he didn't know, said hopefully they'd have a better idea of how those guys are doing tomorrow, and that's honestly the way it often works with concussions. They may actually be feeling okay right now. I don't know, but they might be. They may be feeling okay now, and then they wake up the next morning and they have a throbbing headache, and it's like, oh, okay. Guess I'm going through this. And, all you can really do is cross your fingers because Jamie Drysdale in particular, this isn't anything, any slight against Bobby Brink, but Bobby Brink is on this team, I feel like, less essential than Drysdale is. Like, Drysdale is one of the drivers on defense. Power play hasn't been his forte this year, but at 5-on-5, he's been one of, if not the team's best 5-on-5 defenseman, at least in terms of underlying metrics. You lose him, you're losing a guy who you're giving 18, 19, 20 minutes a night for a significant period of time. Plus, like, he's dealt with so many injuries in his career. I'd hate to see him be out for an extended period of time after he's finally gotten a long run of being able to play straight through and develop continuously rather than in in stops and starts the way it's been in his career. Look, that's not to say Bobby Brink isn't an important player. He's obviously a good player. He's established himself as a top 9 forward on this team. He's come through with some big goals. But number one, I think Drysdale is more important to the team. But number two, the Drysdale hit and subsequent injury, it just looked more serious. Now, concussions are weird. Maybe Drysdale will be back in 4 days and Brink will be out in a month. Who knows? Brains are strange. But the Drysdale one is the one that I look at and I'm like, ooh, I really hope that's not a severe one.
Like, they bring out the stretcher. We said, like, he was down. He leaves under his own power. He's at least able to get up. Yeah. That was scary for a minute there. Like, that was in a fun, exciting physical game. That was take step back and go, oh, this might not be great. But at least he was, like, up and moving. So that was encouraging.
What was the feeling about the hit? Because
I was just about to ask you if you got a good look at it.
Yeah, it seemed to me, and my understanding was on the broadcast, because I assume you guys were probably at the Sweet Takeover. I was obviously in the building, so I was just trying to watch it, with the Jumbotron and with replays. It sounds like Brian Boucher really, really ripped into Ross Johnson and basically said, like, he's convinced that it was intentional, that maybe Johnson was trying to act like it wasn't intentional, like accidentally on purpose, but that there's no way it wasn't on purpose. I tend to side with Boucher the more I looked at it, because this is look, Ross Johnson jumps over the bench. Like, he's 6 seconds into a shift when he makes that hit. If I find it hard to believe that he wouldn't be aware of his surroundings in that situation, add in the circumstantial evidence of it coming right after Hathaway blew up Zellweger, maybe 30 seconds before. It just seemed like Johnson jumped on the ice. Like, he is their enforcer. He's their tough guy. It seemed like he jumped on the ice looking to hurt someone, and Jamie Drysdale was just the first person he saw, so he tried to make it seem like he wasn't trying to hurt him. To me, that's a really bad hit. I couldn't tell from the replays whether it's head contact, and I know generally speaking, they usually don't suspend for extended periods of time if it's not also head contact. Now, if there was head contact, then maybe they throw the book at him. Like, maybe he gets an in-person hearing rather than than just a phone hearing, which would be five or less games. To me, that's a really bad hit. I guess maybe he could make the argument, and I tweeted this out, if you want to be charitable, you could say he didn't see him. It's just hard for me to imagine he didn't see him. It would be one thing if he was 20 seconds into his shift, like, you're coming over the bench. How would you not see him?
Drysdale was in that spot when he did at some point see him.
It's the recklessness that gets me.
That's the only thing I saw was the long angle, so I just really couldn't see what happened, from the very far end of the ice, because the main broadcast doesn't catch it. And I wanted to think it was just kind of a collision, but the fact that they reviewed it and were like 5 in a game and listen, it was scary, and we know the NHL does kind of react to injuries, so it's you're out.
He got hurt.
I just remember
if Bush said that, I'm going to go with the player. I'm going to go with the former player.
Yeah, because I pulled it up on my phone when I was in there to see what the broadcast had, because they weren't showing an in-arena replay, and I just see Drysdale go off screen, and then I see Johnston tumble on screen, which just shows you the velocity he's coming at versus Drysdale just kind of sauntering off screen.
Yeah, and also, so I actually asked Trevor Zegras about this after the game once we got done asking him about the fun stuff. And one thing he said that was interesting, he's like, look, I hope it was unintentional, because I know Ross. I know him as a person. I want to believe that he didn't do that purposely, but it was scary. And I'd like to believe that it was unintentional, because I'd like to believe that Ross Johnson didn't go out there trying to blindside hit Jamie Drysdale for no reason other than he was mad that his guy got blown up by a vicious but perfectly clean hit by Garnet Hathaway. I'd like to believe it was unintentional. To me, the circumstantial evidence and the views hint that it was intentional. I'm sure he didn't mean to hurt him, but also, if you're going to blindside hit a guy, what do you think's going to happen?
And it was a big night for Hathaway with those clean hits. Probably Hathaway's one of his most effective nights of the entire season.
I would agree with that. He even had a couple chances. There was one chance in the third. I'm like, God, is this guy ever going to get a goal? But he was really, really effective today in a physical way. Again, this is one of the reasons why I'm not ready to just throw him out with the bathwater. I want to give Garnet Hathaway a chance to show that he can get back to some semblance of the form that he had his first 2 seasons in Philadelphia, because he is a fun player, because he can play like that. And when you have games like this that are already teetering, they have that intensity, but they just need somebody to kind of, kick the can over and really get it going. Like Garnet Hathaway is one of those guys who can do it. He can turn, a crowd that's getting ready to boil over into a crowd that explodes with big hits like the ones he pulled off. And I think Moore gets injured on the one hit, but looking at the replay, like that looks like a clean hit too. Like they're nasty hits, they're mean hits, they're hard hits, but they're not dirty hits in the sense that they're illegal. And that's what you pay Garnet Hathaway to do. And by that standard, he did a really good job tonight.
Charlie, I do want to talk about the failures of the power play, but I'll tell you, 19 shots on the power play isn't too bad. Now, they had 8, but there have been plenty of games where they have 3 power plays and 2 shots on goal. I liked the shooting mentality tonight, especially from the defense. The defense put a bunch of shots on net, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play. What did you think of that performance tonight?
Yeah, I mean, look, in the end, you got to score some goals. They get the one. They do get the one Zegras goal. They could have scored a lot more. Given
a 5-minute major, a 5-on-3, like, come on.
Exactly. Yeah, they could have gotten a lot more. That said, they did create a lot. I think at 5-on-4, looking at natural stat trick, they had 30 shot attempts, 17 scoring chances, 5 high danger scoring chances, 2.61 expected goals for. That's pretty good. And maybe this was more of a game where they were a little bit snake bitten. It was like an everything but the finish game. That said, when you've struggled on the power play all year, when you've struggled on the power play for multiple years, it's harder to cut them slack when this is a recurring issue. It's like, yeah, well, they just didn't finish. Like, well, they haven't been finishing for like 4 straight years. At some point, you got to turn, good process games on the power play into good results games. It was disappointing. And Trevor Zegras actually said that after the game. He brought that up unprompted, that he's like, hey, our power play stunk today and we still won 5-2. That shows how much better we can still get from where we are, because this was the halfway point mark of their season. This was the 41st game. So they know the power play needs to get better. They know that they believe it can get better. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I lean more towards it just needs to be better. You had a chance to bury them with that 5-minute major and get some dose of revenge for the Drysdale hit, and instead it's still a game. Like, they score and they win, and it's not a close game. But that game should have been over by the end of that 5-minute major. They had the opportunity to end it, and instead they let the Ducks hang around. And look, I've been saying this from the start. I don't think the Ducks are a very good team, even though they got off to a good start. I think after this game, a lot of people will probably agree with me that they're not that good of a team, but they will play teams. They, as in the Flyers, will play teams that they will have needed to have scored a goal on that 5-minute major in order to lock up the game, because they have the ability to come back from 2 goals down in a way that this Ducks team, I just don't think is good enough to regularly do.
Charlie, last one before Stars. I just wanted to get your thoughts on Dan Vladar. Stopped 16 of 18. Both goals are on the power play. But I just kind of thought he was fighting it tonight. The first goal from Cutter wasn't a rocket. Now, listen, that's his 20th of the season. He is a goal scorer. That's what he does. But I did think he got lucky a few times as well. Some posts, the desperation reach back stop. What did you think of Vladar tonight?
I 100% agree with you, and I actually mentioned that in the elevator ride down to do interviews after the game. That I think I was talking to Bill Meltzer, and Bill said, as bad as this might look in his numbers, Dostal had a pretty good game. He made a lot of big saves, and I was like, yeah, and I didn't think Vladar played that good. He obviously gets the win. He only gives up 2 goals, but this was not his sharpest game. It just speaks to the degree of dominance that the Flyers had as a team, that like the other team's goalie, I think, was the better goalie, and that goalie lost 5-2. Yeah, this wasn't one of Vladar's best games, but hey, given how well Vladar has played, I think we can give him one of these games, especially when it comes in a game they still won, where they didn't really need him.
They owed him. They owed him a game or two. He's won them basically every game this year. All right, Chuck, before we hit Stars, 321 likes right now, but 800 plus people watching. Give us a like spike for 3 stars.